I had a few thoughts that I think are important as we set the stage here for the next 3 days and truly moving into the future. We all know that, and we've talked about and said it for so long, especially within our work at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, that the Lone Star State has shined so brightly in the last generation, especially the last decade. It has become a beacon truly extending from one end of our country to the other. We all know the Texas miracle about the jobs that are disproportionately created here in Texas. At one point, more than half the jobs here in Texas. We all know that we have had a tremendous number of immigrants who have arrived amongst us. In fact, let me ask, how many of you in the room have moved to Texas in the last decade? Look at that. That is absolutely extraordinary. Absolutely. Welcome, by the way, welcome. And we all know that Texas has been on the forefront of an absolute energy revolution. It is unbelievable what is happening. And in fact, you'll hear me say a lot that if we can just get Washington out of the way, that within a decade, Kathleen Hartnett-White, the United States of America, led by Texas, will be a net exporter of energy. Think about what that means. That is unbelievable. That is a game changer. But that's just the basic outline, really the bare outline of what our great state has accomplished in recent years. Texas has provided such a contrast to the nation's struggles with economic hardship and with fiscal deprivation under much of the leadership in Washington. And all of this, of course, we being here in Austin, Texas, at the Texas Public Policy Foundation event, we all know this is an old story. But that old story is ongoing. And the question before us is what we have learned from it. And most importantly, how we write the next chapter. You've heard me say at previous orientations and elsewhere that Texas is where the American dream still survives, and that reintroducing America to that dream is truly our biggest task. But it's not enough to simply provide an example. Texas has a model that works, and we know that. It is low taxes and fiscal restraint and limited government. But if empirical outcomes were the beginning and the end of this matter, we could pack up, go back home, confident that, as Abraham Lincoln said, that right makes might, rather than the other way around. But to get where you're going, first, we have to understand, and I think this is directly relevant to what I believe Representative Turner is going to talk about today, you have to understand where you are. And in looking at where the American people think they are, and I think you've all read this recently, I am sorry to say that the mood of our country is not good. In fact, it is downright troubling. By way of illustration, a poll just a few weeks back by Bloomberg, December 11th, said that the number of Americans who say that the United States no longer offers everyone an equal chance to get ahead is almost 64%. In other words, nearly 2/3 of Americans no longer believe in the American dream. The next day, Gallup had its own poll reporting that a plurality of Americans viewed dissatisfaction with government as the country's most important problem. And on the 23rd, the Pew Research Center's poll said that for the first time, a majority of Americans believe that Washington, D.C. threatens their personal rights and their freedoms. What is happening, and why are Americans losing so much faith in the institutions and the aspirations that should and have always defined us? This isn't about partisanship, and it's not about Republicans and Democrats and libertarians. This is about what is the ultimate result in how you get to pessimism and what erodes faith in our democratic society that has sustained us for so long. We Texans especially know better than this. We in the Lone Star State are the heirs and the descendants of the same people, after all, who suffered the ultimate sacrifice at the Alamo and kept on fighting. What corrodes our civic soul is frustrated expectations. Americans, in other words, don't need to be handed anything. They just need to be free to dream and to have a shot at making that dream real. Whether Americans can regain faith in the American dream is the overriding question, I believe, of my and our generation. Faith is not, contrary to its detractors, something irrational and untested. It is rational and it is real. And in Texas, we've done a pretty good job of keeping that dream alive. But we cannot assume that all that needs to happen is keep on doing the same old thing and hope that the rest of America notices. Our principles remain grounded, fixed, and true, even while circumstances are changing. And because we've succeeded in Texas, and we saw the show of hands just a minute ago, the Lone Star State, in the face of our state, is changing dramatically. Our demographics are extraordinarily pluralistic. Our urbanization is above the national rate, and our economy is diversified. All of this is the price of our success, and it's a price worth paying. And it's commonplace around some parts of Texas, and heaven knows that I sometimes think this too, that all of these newcomers, all of you newcomers from California and New York and Illinois, a lot of you are now working at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, by the way, are going to change the face of the Lone Star State. And that's true, and our face will change. But we must remember that before them came the Tennesseans and the Georgians and the Alabamans who made the Texas Revolution. And before them came the Mexicans who settled the land and planted civilization in the wilderness and laid the foundation of our most venerable communities from San Antonio to El Paso to Laredo and beyond. Change is a constant. And within that change, Texas, and with it the American dream, will endure. For those of us who, like at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, believe in the principles of individual responsibility and fiscal rectitude and limited government, the challenge before us is this. Do those principles and the policy from which those proceed find belief in the new Texas that is evolving with the success of the Texas model? And we'll talk about that over the next couple of days. Do they become the principles of the new Texas that is arising even as we speak, from California immigrants in Travis County, from Hispanic entrepreneurs in McAllen, from Indian professionals in Sugar Land, and African American households in Houston, from Pakistani store owners in Plano, and from every corner, neighborhood, home, and community in the Lone Star State? Or do they recede into irrelevance as the mere identity politics of the old order? My friends, at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, and as so many of you also, we believe the same thing that the American founders believed, that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are the common aspirations of all men and from all walks of life. It is our task and it is our privilege to do the work of research, reason, and persuasion to extend that faith and its blessings to every new Texan that is creating itself from the old Texas. Let me close with one final thing, and this is important. I mentioned the Bloomberg poll from last month that showed 2/3 of Americans losing faith in the American dream. That wasn't the whole poll. As it happens, Americans turn out to have some ideas on what to do about it. And the result here is extraordinary. 45% believe that to restore fairness in the American system, we must put our faith in government. 46% believe that it would be better to get government out of the way and let the market operate freely. In other words, it is a contest split 50-50 between big government and freedom in our country. It is an even split. That's the defining debate of our age, and that's the defining debate of today. That is the critical question facing our country, and that is a question that Texas, the engine of the American economy and the palette of the American future, is uniquely placed to answer. And so here we are. That's why we're here at the 11th annual policy orientation for the Texas legislature. And as I look out on all of you, so many friends from a long time that have been in this discussion and this debate and in so many ways this battle from the beginning, that is why we're here. And we are so grateful that you have chosen to share your time and attention. And thank you especially to our legislators for your passion for what Sam Houston called Texas, the fairest portion of the globe that has ever blessed my vision.